On today's episode of Remarkable Amplified, I welcome Kimaada DeShazor, a career agilist. We've come to know each other through Caroline Davis, who recommended that we connected when I first launched the concept of this podcast. So, shout out, thank you, Caroline. And in addition to our connection through her, we had some great conversations and got to learn quickly that we had similar career paths from being an executive assistant into project management and beyond. So welcome. It's great to see you. Thank you for
Thank
joining me.
you. It's good to be here. I'm excited.
Thanks, me too. And one of the things I wanted to start off with is I mentioned your career as an agilist. What is an agilist?
So that's also known as a scrum master. Scrum with an M, not a B. People tend to get confused. Like scrubbing dishes now. Scrum master. And that's basically, in a nutshell, it's like being the coach of the team. So you're helping the team with the work, make sure the sizing the work right. You're still doing, it's under the umbrella of Agile and project management, but it's not as formal with like budgets and forecasting, at least for the side that I do. So it's pretty much just the coach on the team to make sure that they are basically staying in line with their goals and they're getting to the goal and helping to remove obstacles and things like that if they are having some trouble. The idea is that you get them to maturity, they can operate without me. So I'm really supposed to work my way out of the team. In a sense, they're supposed to be self-organized. So my job is really to get them to be self-organized.
And when I think about our connection as that executive assistant, we know that executive assistants have a variety of different roles and
Yeah.
capabilities and capacities. However, it's in the service always of supporting others. And it sounds like an agilist is very much the same way, the focus on the team. When did you know you wanted to evolve your career from an executive assistant into project management specifically?
So I'm organized. I love anything organization. I think that's why the executive assistant worked for me. I was going back and forth whether or not I wanted to do project management because I loved the projects. I was doing the event side. So for years, I did events, 500, 600 people constantly, right? So I really loved that. But I was like, I really wanted to get it formally, but I didn't really like the way my company was doing it necessarily in the waterfall traditional way. And so I was telling a coworker, it's always good to share your thoughts with people because sometimes you just never know who will help you. I was talking to one of our colleagues, her name was Shauna Easley, and she was doing Agile. She was involved in that. And then I can't remember her exact role. When I told her what my barrier was, I was like, oh, I like project management, but I don't like I feel like it's babysitting. A lot of the project managers didn't have good relationships with the developers. It was like a taskmaster as opposed to a partnership. And I really didn't like that part. And so she's like, well, have you ever heard of Agile? I was like, no. So she was like, okay, I'm gonna explain what it is. So she set a meeting with me for a whole hour and went over a PowerPoint presentation of what Agile was. And that's what really sold me on Agile. I was like, that's what I want to do. I would love to coach the teams. I want to do projects, but I want us to work together. I don't want you to feel like I'm telling you what to do, but you tell me what you can do. And that's one thing about Agile. It's like, here's the work. Tell me what you can do. And we'll commit to that as opposed to saying, I need this milestone by this time, get it done and a lot of times it's not with regard to like balance, work-life balance. So I really was sold after she took, I felt like it was a lot of time to explain it because she was going to explain it in probably 5 minutes and just went on her merry way. But she really took the time to make sure I understood what it was. And that's what got me going in that direction.
I had commented on, for those people who are not familiar with project management methodology and some vocabulary, what's the waterfall technique versus the agile?
It's traditional. So like let's say you could use it. Probably the easiest thing to think about is like when you build a house. You know exactly how to build that house. You know all the requirements. You have to get the plumber, the drywall, the foundation. You know everything from start to finish. So at that point, you just like plan to work out how it's going to work in tandem with each other. So because of that, and it's not something you can like adjust really well. Like you can't say, you know what, I want to put the drywall before the foundation does. That doesn't go. It's usually you want to use traditional project management when there's like an order of it that makes sense. It's Agile. It allows you to shift and bend and be flexible. Like with software, it's easy to say, I want this functionality instead of that one. I want this button instead of that one. So it gives you that flexibility to change things more often for what the customer wants. Whereas traditional, you kind of want to use it when you already know your requirements, you know the work has to be done. There's really not a whole lot of going from that, right? So it definitely has this great, it's definitely needed in certain aspects. Even in technology, people still use water. So it's not like it's a bad thing to use, but Agile allows you, if you don't know all the requirements up front, but you want to build something, could just keep moving and changing and iterating as you go for what the customer needs.
I was to think about it in terms of the picture, waterfall would be much more linear, whereas agile would be, I would say, more symbiotic and a little bit more circular, and you can keep going back to do, you said that iteration.
Yeah, people probably like when you think about technology and the apps that you have on your phone or your or whatever you have your apps, always have these updates. Updates. iOS has it. Apple's good for that. Every month it's like, download this update. Well, when you're releasing technology, very often that's usually agile because you want to make sure you have what the customer needs as they're using it. It's not just like when a house is built, it's done. You walk away, you're not doing anything else with that house. But with software, it can get outdated really easily, and you may have functionality your customers want that you don't realize until, it comes up. People keep requesting this. Let's put this in the mix. Let's get this on there too, where it may not have been in the vision before.
What other skills are important as an agilist, as someone who is interested in the field of project management?
For an agilist specifically, you still want to be organized, even though you help the team self-organize. You kind of have to have a good handle on yourself to kind of help them through that, right? And you do want to, one thing I learned was that you don't have to be technical, but you should pay attention to the technical pieces of it. Because as you learn and you grow, it's easier to coach when you know something about what a developer does. Whether he does back end or front end work, if he's working on microservices or an API, you should pay attention to those details so you can do a better job of being a coach. When I first got in, people told me, just really pay attention to that. You don't really need to know. And I found that I was more valuable to the team when I took in the information I actually learned from them. It made me stronger. Listen, pay attention. You gotta have empathy as well because no one changes by leaps and bounds. Changes are baby steps. So like when you introduce a change, you don't introduce change with the change with the change. You say, okay, let's let that change begin. Then we can implement something else. So you're kind of mindful of the psychology of the team too, the morale of the team, just to make sure that when you're as you're coaching them through how to be self-organized, you're not telling them what to do. You're allowing them to also see their own weaknesses to say, okay, we want to implement this, we see that. Okay, great. Let's implement that. So you do need a lot of like listening, organizational skills. I would say fast learner would be great. It's a role that easily can get lazy if you're not, because there's not a lot of like metrics around what makes a really good agilist. It's a lot of soft skills. And so because of that, it's easy to kind of like take a break and not really do a lot and not be engaged. And really, you got to be engaged with the team, know the product, know what they're working on, understand their barriers, and help them with that.
And in the way you described it, that's very much of a coach approach.
Yeah.
And the people inherently know the answers. You're there to help guide and facilitate that. So, what part of coaching others is important to you?
To see people grow. As a Scrum Master, I like to see people get better, more efficient. Because honestly, if you can't get it done faster or more efficient and get it done with good quality, it's not gonna, all those things are factors. So when you're coaching a team, you don't want to just coach them to help them fast. You also want to make sure that the quality is good because what does it make a difference if you have a new function you can't use? And the customer's like, it's not working, error, but you did it. So when you're coaching, you also want to make sure that you have the quality and efficiency as much as possible. When I'm coaching mentoring, like one-on-one, I'm really looking at what they need and trying to coach them in the way that they need. And I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. But it's important to know that, okay, if there's an answer I don't know, I have a resource for you. Let me hook you up with this person so they can explain to you. Because it doesn't make sense to try to pretend like you know something you don't. I know my weaknesses and know my strengths. And it's if you have a good network, I think when you're coaching like people, then you can help align them with someone else who really can help them in their journey too.
And have you only coached people within your work setting in specifics to like projects? Are you coached broader than that?
Broader. I have someone I'm coaching right now really through life. We're like a life coach. I feel like career coach. It's kind of evolved into that. Where first it was career, and now it's like, hey, can we talk about these things? Can we talk about these things? I need some guidance here. So it's that now, which I love because I tend to work with young adults in their 20s that just need help figuring out basic life stuff. It's amazing what we do every day. It just comes natural to us that we've learned that when you're 21 years old, You don't know how to do a budget. You don't know how to manage credit card. You don't know how to get a loan. You don't know how to apply for a corporate job. Like you might not know how to present yourself. How do I present myself on LinkedIn? Like there's all these things that they need help with that we're like, oh yeah, that's easy for us. We've been doing it for a minute. But it helps tremendously in that stage of life. So most of the time, outside of like my teams of coaching people personally, it's gonna be that age range because that's my heart. I love to coach that age range life skills, honestly.
And I know when we've had the conversation previously leading up to this, you talked about how you formed Careerology with
Yeah.
that focus of partnering with people in their case, having that life stage and life moments. And so share a bit more about what the Careerology program offered beyond what you just talked about.
Well, sure. So the way it kind of came up was we'd have these interns come in from an internship program, and most of the time they were of color. And I would say, I really want to make sure they have what they need because they came in with skills, but there was a gap because even when we get training of your technology, project management, whatever, but there's pieces of corporate, especially in that particular business, that you might need to learn and understand that you're not going to get maybe in a college setting or the setting that they're coming from. So I really had a heart to say, let's just make sure we kind of put our arms around them and make sure they're supported in this process of being an intern. Because from where they came from, it's like a work, it's not an internship. We just come and go. The idea is that you land the job. So we try to help you land the job as much as you possibly can. But if not, you're going to leave with those skills to be able to take somewhere else. So I co-created with Bria Clough. She was an alumni from the program that the interns were coming from. And we just kind of ask ourselves, like, okay, what are the gaps? What are we seeing that we needed? What did you need when you came here that you didn't have, you wish you had? And that's how we created the program. We said, okay, we need this. We need basically business acumen. We need to understand organization, very basics. How do you work Microsoft? How do you send insight? How do you deal with conflict on the job? You're trying to get this job, but what happens when things go awry and you don't make the mark and you let people down and you don't make deliverables? Coaching through that, coaching through the circle of control, understanding what you can control, what you can't control, because we want you to have a good experience and figure out that for things you can't control, do those things. For things you can't, let it go. Because again, these are young adults in their 20s, and you don't want them to be disenchanted from something negative happening on the job. Like giving them that balance that they need so they can be successful. Let's just like a few things we do. We actually do tap on emotional control, which is funny now because the program they come from, they loved it so much they adopted it. And even with our
Oh,
program, it was
great.
originally done under our Black Hair BRG, and we owned it. And then the business, they saw a lot of value in it. I was getting to the point where I was like, "Oh, I need to hand this over. I don't want to just leave it." And they were like, no, we'll take this on. And so now someone else manages it totally. I still facilitate and I still want to be involved, but all the administrative stuff I don't do anymore. So it's nice that the business actually owns it now. So I feel like if I left, then it will go, it lives beyond me being there, which is what I wanted. I don't want just to live and die by my presence.
Thank you for your generosity of your wisdom to be able to do this for people. Because when I look back on my career, I didn't had I didn't have that person to kind of hold. I was the one responsible for going out. And so much of it is in the individual. Sometimes you need that helping hand, right?
You
Someone to
too?
help give you that guidance, because why would I want to repeat my own mistakes? Somebody else tells me theirs and then you can learn from it and go on.
Exactly. You're going to make plenty of mistakes. There's no sense in making the ones you don't have to make. Like I have people that I learned a lot from took the time because they cared enough to say, hey, that's not appropriate for work, or hey, let me help you with that. I remember I had a conflict with a coworker one time, and my manager got us both in the room, was like, let's talk it out. Like we weren't too close to have issue. And it was tough. I was really nervous and sweating, but it was good for me because I was like 19, 20 at the time, to just learn how to handle conflict. And people who took that time, I also wanted to pour that into other people, so that it's to give them all the help that I got and the one that I would have wanted. So I kind of did a little bit. Both. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that I think about when it comes to careers are long. And I heard that from a prior guest, Carolyn Hardy, who has so much wisdom around being able to craft the path of the journey she wanted to take in her career. And when someone is in their career, you talked about landing the job. landing the job is one element, but then also changing and transitioning. Because I think early to career, you may not have the ability to choose exactly that dream job. You just need to take whatever you can get. But if you are mindful and deliberate about moving it into an area that you want to go into, what are some things that you would coach somebody with on how they might want to grow their role or career change? What would you recommend or just help guide them through?
I think you definitely need to be set. One thing I deal with a lot with my interns is just indecisiveness. It's hard for people to help you when you're indecisive or you're all over the place. Like, I want this and then tomorrow I want that, tomorrow I want that. Like, really hone in on what really helps me hone on what you're good at, what brings you joy, what really feeds you and gives you life. If you think about, like, I love to coach people. I love organization. I love finances. I like numbers. I'm the person that has like a Excel spreadsheet for bills, so I love those things. And so when you're thinking about a career change, what do you really like and what you don't like? So you don't just go for it for the money. The money wears off. You take something for the money. The money is great for a short time. Because if you hate it, you don't want to get up to everything, every day something you hate. So first make the decision. Once you make the decision what you want to do, start talking to people. Tell people your vision. Like, let people know, like, hey, I want to do this. And people will always want to help you. It's really amazing the people you don't think would help you or the ones you think does. And also I would say, don't get disenchanted and get disappointed for the people that you think would help you the most and they don't. That is something that I think there's an expectation that you have. You don't realize you have that until someone disappoints you. Like, I thought they would help me more. Trust me, I worked close to people that I thought would help me on my transition, and they did not help me at all. There's always someone there that will help you, and they will put that effort in. And so when I wanted to transition, it took me 3 years to get from executive assistant to being an agilist and scrum master. I first got my certification because they offered it free. I was like, I'm taking it. And
Take
then,
advantage of what's there.
yes, it's expensive for those who have done it. And your company does it for free. Take it because it's not cheap on your own. And then what my manager was really at the time was the CIO for the company. He was really nice enough to say to let me actually work as a scrum master for like 11 months in conjunction with my job because I would just want to get that experience. So I worked on like the transformation team. And that was my first intro into that. After 11 months, I decided not to maintain it because there was no transition to move into it. With agile transformations, especially for that one, it was a limited time. It wasn't going to be forever. Once the teams transition, the program kind of goes out the door. Then you're kind of in the BAU mode, right? So I was there for 11 months and I was kind of disappointed because I was like, it didn't turn into what I wanted to do. I was ready to get going. But I decided I would implement the mindset. Because Agile is a mindset. It's got some framework where you do things, but it's really a mindset on how you treat people, how you do the team. And at the time, I was on the board for our Black Heritage Business Resource Group. So I said, I'm going to implement everything I can on this board that's Agile as much as I can. So I can kind of get that practice. Wherever I could kind of practice it, I would to keep it fresh in my mind and fresh in kind of like your spirit too. Cause you can lose like the desire for something. It just wanes when it takes so long. So you got to find a way to kind of do it, even if it's just for free, if it's in the community, something to kind of keep it alive. And then when my executive left for another great opportunity, the other lady that I rolled in up to, she said, what do you want to do? Because they don't have a habit of, oh, your executive's gone, you're going to. They don't do that at where I work. So she said, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay? Do you have something else? She's like, I love to help people in their journey. And again, she had heard of me because of all the great work that the Black Heritage Business Resource Group was doing. It wasn't just me. I was helping lead it, but it wasn't just me. So she's like, I heard of the work you've been doing there. And I said, I really want to be a Scrum Master. That's my next thing. I'm certified. I've had 11 months experience. I take the whole thing. She's like, you know what? I have the journey team under me. Let me refer you. So I got an interview and I was selected, and that's how I got started. Never thought in ever that she at her level would want to help me, or I would never ask if she didn't. I don't know if I would ever ask, she didn't say anything. So it just kind of goes to show, like, you don't know who's going to help you. So don't have your preconceived ideas of what you think who should help you on the journey, because oftentimes they're brand new people, and you get to now. And now when I see her, it's like, how are you? We've kind of form kind of a friendship at work. You can say that nice coworker type relationship that you want to have, just very amicable.
Yeah, and a huge shout out to all the helpers, right? The ones that we assume and that we know, and then the ones that are the unsuspecting, unsung heroes in the
Yeah.
background. There's so many times where people have, without knowing it, were informal sponsors to my career just by even saying my name in, the capacity in which I never expected. It is huge, huge for women who are not always used to advocating for ourselves and also for underrepresented groups. But I wanted to touch upon some key things before we moved on to the next question. Is you talked about a lot of really important parts of thinking through a career. So the decision making is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
In addition to doing that is the upskilling in the moment where things change. You talked about mindset. Huge, huge in career. I don't think that people can really accelerate until they understand their motivators, what makes them passionate about it, and then going and putting that mindset approach of like, I'm just going to do it and getting done. And really important to tapping into the resources. So if it's there, use it. I think a lot of companies offer, I know mine does, sounds like yours does, great opportunities to get reimbursed. But then also, putting yourself out there. I love how you tapped into your BRG. I know at my company, we have a global allyship group. We are looking to encourage more people to look at it beyond just a gathering of people. It is a building of skills. It is a building of community, and it's an opportunity to connections that you wouldn't necessarily think could lead to anything. But I mean, just the connection of being around people that are similar, that have things that you're curious about, I think is so important.
It
So
is.
how do you go about building connections and networks
Yeah.
for yourself and for what you would recommend for others?
I take advantage of every opportunity to like network. And I say that because I can't do it all because you got work still. But at my company, being on the board. So at first I joined, if you have an ERG or BRG at your job, join one. It really does open up a lot of opportunity. One thing I learned by being on the Black Heritage Month specifically was that as much as we wanted to, the opportunity would open for us because we had the leeway to say, hey, I want this management committee member on this panel. And so you got a chance and got exposed to people, got to know you, and they say, hey, do you want to go to this conference that they're paying for? When you get to know people, they start asking you. And I get that a lot. Hey, we're going to this ball, or the company's sponsoring this ball, this table. Do you want to come? Absolutely. So then you get to know people outside of work, and you get to form those relationships outside of work so that even when you're at work, it's just have a camaraderie. You don't necessarily do it for selfish reasons, but it just helps to build that camaraderie and getting involved. You have to be involved in something. Networking it shouldn't be this formal thing of give me your business card, that kind of thing. If you meet someone and someone say, we should do lunch, actually do it. Actually say, when you're free. I do that. If people, whether I know you're not, and they say, I would love to have a lunch one day. Okay, let's pull out let's pull out our calendars. When are you free? Let's put it on now so that we actually connect. And that really helps. So wherever I am in environments and I meet new people, I try to make sure I follow up with that if they say they want that. And just make myself available as much as I can. I know we all different I'm at a stage of life right now where my children are grown and adults. So I have more time to put into that. So I know time could be a thing where you may not have, but don't forsake it totally. Like put something into it. Cause I feel like it's always been worthwhile for me to get to know people
Yeah.
because like you said, when you're not in the room and people are talking about you and there's an opportunity like, oh, I think you'd be good for this.
Yeah, and networking, I think too, is not the easiest for some people. But if you think
Sure.
about how long careers
Mhm.
are, you're
Yeah.
going to need to find the helpers along the way. That was one of our themes of our previous conversation, and it is in the most unassuming way. So if you go into network thinking, "Oh, this is a job, I need to get something out of it," think of it much bigger and broader. Every touch point, every connection I think of it is an opportunity. And I learned something from everybody I come into contact with. May not use it right away, but then I store it into that bank and pull that out afterwards. I'm like, this is what that little bit of wisdom that I didn't think of at the time comes into present now.
Just only be open to people that are like tenured above you or their title is bigger. Like you have to be willing to just be that person that accepts everyone. And I'm not a respectful person. So I always feel I give everybody the same respect, the same amount of attention. If it's the CEO, doesn't matter if you're the receptionist, doesn't matter. I'm still building those connections because people matter. And I know I'm an extrovert. You can tell I don't need to say, but as I've gotten older, I really have learned that that's one of my strengths, right? I just am able to connect with most people. But if it's not, then it's an area of growth. You got to maybe push yourself a little bit harder. But my daughter was an introvert, and I always kind of encouraged her. And I was so proud of her when she actually took a customer service job as like, in retail, because I knew it was forcing her to learn that skill of connecting with people and not being afraid and not being apprehensive about that. So sometimes you have to start small, but I think you get used to it if you're just willing to, put yourself out there. Now she's gotten so good. She travels and stuff and without me takes jobs out of and she's comfortable with people. And I don't know if she would have gotten that had she not started somewhere. We're all built a certain way, but don't let how you naturally are to be your limitation. Grow yourself where you feel like it's limiting you and just continue to little bit by little bit, move past it. Because I'm an extrovert. We all move past something. I had to learn to advocate for myself. I had to learn to negotiate. There's things we still had to learn, outside of
Yeah.
our natural personalities. So
You know what? I could keep talking much longer than we have the time set for now. And I would love for you to come back for a follow up conversation because you've left so many nuggets of wisdom. And I know our listeners and myself, I could learn so much more from you. But as we close things off, what's next for you on your career journey?
mhm. Well, I still love project management. But I would really love because where I am right now, in a particular position, I don't get to like manage budgets. See, I tell you, I love numbers. So I would love to be in a project where it's broader, it's a little bit bigger. I can crunch the numbers, do the capacity stuff and really just work with the teams in a different way. I think that would really hone my skills. I love the coaching part, and I know I could take that with me. I don't have to lose that piece. The things that I didn't like about project management before being an agilist, I've learned I can implement those things still. I don't have to do it that way. I can still do it this way with all of the other things I want to do that also will challenge me. I have to be constantly challenged. I get bored if I'm not challenged. So I think the next challenge in project management is for me to do something a little bit more, probably closer to the waterfall side, which I did take a class in project management to get myself ready for that. Again, that's always that preparation. That part was not funded. I had to invest in myself on this one, but I thought the investment was worthwhile because it's something I would like to do, and I have to prepare myself to make sure I understand the documentation that's going to be required and the language so that when I get into that, I can be successful. I'm trying to prepare myself as much as I can right now until I get there.
Well, I know you're going to get there, and that's so exciting. And I can't wait to follow along your career and have a follow up conversation. So thank you, Kamada. You've been so generous with your time, with your knowledge. I know there's so much within the conversation that we've had in this, brief 30 minutes that really, I'm sure resonates with a lot of folks. So thank you. And I hope we chat again soon.
Thank you for inviting me. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye.